Are you ready?
Cross-court, Kemp's got it right up into the alley. Power!
That's what you want? Is this what any of you want?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Brian Russell slips, and Michael pulls up and buries the shot to give him a 1-point lead.
I am the one who knocks.
That's the result you won't get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
If you don't write checks, how do you pay these guys?
Straight cash, homie.
Break it down!
All right, we're here for the very first episode of The Breakdown. I'm Alex Hardesty.
And I'm the big AC Andy Chevalier. Hardesty, tell me you're excited about the first episode of The Breakdown.
Oh, you know it. This has been in the works for a while now. We finally got the gear and the right time and place to do this. And let's hit it off. Let's talk about some of the more recent subjects.
Well, you're Richard Sherman's biggest fan. Tell me how big of either or excited you were or let down about the Super Bowl. That's what everyone's talking about, or how awful the Super Bowl was. Just kind of your initial reaction about the Super Bowl.
Well, my initial reaction while I was watching it was, wow, this is a blowout. Here we go again. Almost like Raiders and Buccaneers. I don't know if you remember that from back in the day.
Right.
You know,
Gruden owned them.
Yep, Gruden owned them. Pure defense, obviously. And one of the interesting things we were talking about before we started the show today was how this is now the third Super Bowl that has had a safety.
Right. I don't know if people know that. This is exactly the third Super Bowl in a row where there's been a safety. Really unlikely. If you're living in Vegas, you're loving that bet all day. But about that safety, I mean, a lot of people are saying, you know, if that safety didn't happen at the very beginning, that's the whole reason why the Broncos got so rattled. I mean, you can't really play the if and buts game, but it did happen. Do you really think that is the major reason they just became unraveled?
Well, here's my opinion on that. When you start a game off where you have possession first when you're the Broncos, and your very first play ends with the other team getting 2 points and then the ball back, you start to play to begin with, the Broncos offense is mostly powered by their passing game. When you have Peyton Manning, it's not going to be anything but a great passing game. So, but when you're down, you start you get that in that mentality, like you got to come back, even though they're only down 2 points at this point. They're thinking, oh crap, it's time to start scoring points. They panicked.
Right.
So in my opinion, when they started thinking we only have to pass the ball, and then when you have such a great defense as Seattle's, where they're putting pressure on the ball like that, then that's where it just created the turnovers, the interceptions.
And Peyton Manning did get a little unlucky. I mean, there was a lot of instances where passes were tipped on the line. I mean, but that's Seattle putting pressure.
Right.
That's not Peyton. That's not Peyton's fault. That's just Seattle being the better team. Keep in mind that safety was the fastest score in Super Bowl history. Has there been a fastest score? In fact, we looked it up with the Devin Hester run back against Peyton Manning.
Right.
He's responsible for the 2 quickest scores in Super Bowl history.
A little bit of irony.
Kind of funny there. That being said, I mean, Seattle did their part offensively too. I don't know if you know this, but as soon as they got the ball back on the safety, they scored a field goal on the first drive.
Yep.
So, I mean, Seattle did its part, both sides of the ball, especially defensively. You know what? And I'm happy to see that a game that was decided by defense had the MVP award go to someone who deserved the MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, this may be sour grapes, but being a Patriots fan, I didn't think Eli Manning deserved that MVP award. I thought for sure it should have went to Tuck or anyone on the defensive line of the Giants. Glad to see that they got it right this year.
Yeah, I think I agree for the most part. Is the best part of the Seattle's game is their defense, and a defensive player got the MVP award. But at the same time, that kind of leads me into the thought of, when is Russell Wilson going to be given the credit he's due? I know after winning the Super Bowl, obviously he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but leading into the game, I thought he's one of the most underrated players in the NFL. I mean, nobody likes to talk about Russell Wilson, really, but I think he's got, and people have referred to him as a game manager. Trent Dilfer was a game manager for the Ravens Super Bowl win in 2000. Russell Wilson is far beyond his skill, and I'd like to see now he's finally getting what he deserves, He's a Super Bowl winner. He's a great character player.
He was a class act.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, Malcolm Smith, the MVP in question, we're talking about winning Super Bowl MVP honors. He had that interception return for a touchdown.
Huge play.
Yeah, and that really kind of sealed the deal. I mean, if you remember, the Broncos really needed to come out in that second half, guns a-blazing, and just the complete opposite happened. And just Peyton Manning just couldn't get anything going. And it's not necessarily Peyton Manning's fault. You know, I know people are blaming. Football is a game where the quarterback is what everyone's looking at.
Yep.
And if the team fails, the quarterback's the first guy to blame.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
They're also the first person to receive the success, or the people like you said, when they don't do well, they're the first person to get hated on. When they do well, they're gonna be the face of the team, which is
funny they say that, because when people talk about the Seattle Seahawks team, I feel like maybe the fourth or fifth guy that's mentioned is Russell Wilson.
Right.
You know, and I completely agree with everything you said. I feel like Russell Wilson's like one of the few examples. Yeah. Even teams in the NFL who are known for their defense, like the 49ers, Colin Kaepernick's the face of that team.
Right.
Russell Wilson, maybe it's because he's just not a talker. He's not a media guy.
It really is a unique position that the Seattle's in, because, like you said, he's kind of one of the last guys that they start talking about when they talk about their success. Richard Sherman stole the show leading into the Super Bowl with his explosive comments in the NFC Championship game, which is kind of leading into our next subject. Do you feel that the NFC Championship game against the 49ers was more a fitting Super Bowl than against Denver? Were they more a worthy opponent than Denver Broncos were?
I will say this. The game was definitely better, but what tagline is better for a Super Bowl than the number one defense versus the number one offense?
Yep.
That's as good as it's going to get, folks. I mean, they had a great storyline last year in brother versus brother. That's a great storyline. What could be better than the number one defense versus the number one offense? And this isn't a number one offense that's like an opinion. Statistically, I mean, Peyton Manning broke the single season record.
Yeah.
Beat Tom Brady's record. And just it was, I agree. The NFC Championship game was better, but I don't think that I would have picked it any different.
All right. Well, that being said, though, after watching the Super Bowl and seeing how lopsided it was in Seattle's favor, I mean, you can't. It kind of begs that question. That's how I feel. Is that the true competition this year in the NFL? Even though it ended up being the number one offense, which is against the number one defense, which is what you kind of strive for if you're the league. I still think like the better competition was against the 49ers.
Right.
I mean, those teams hate each other.
True. I mean, and you're going to see that in any conference championship game, in any sport. You know, when two rivals go at it in their conference championship, that's going to tend to more often not be the better game. But, I mean, if you were to pick at the end of the day, if I were to say the number one defense faced the number one offense in the Super Bowl, you wouldn't pick it any other way. Really quickly, I do want to talk about Richard Sherman really quick. We're both kind of fans of him. A lot of the media kind of gave him the thug rule. In fact, I saw some stat that thug was mentioned and referenced to him 600 times on the Monday following that 49ers game.
Isn't it amazing what the media can coin right after
whatever they want,
just from a simple post-game statement where he's in the heat of the moment. The guy's obviously fired up. His team's going to the Super Bowl
against a team we just said they have a huge rivalry.
Oh, yeah, huge rivalry. And then I agree. It's sort of like he gets painted as a picture for mainstream America as a thug. But look, like, people need to really look at the guy. He's an amazing, probably the best corner in the game right now.
Hands down. I'll tell you a stat that you probably don't know. Eric Decker, which was the guy he was covering the most game, had one more catch than you and I combined that Super Bowl. He had one catch for 6 yards, Hardesty. He was completely shut down. Sherman was on him most of the entire game, which is why, to his credit, Demaryius Thomas had a great game. I think he had 11 catches for 180 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. The guy was just ridiculous. He was ridiculous the whole playoffs. I believe he had a touchdown in every single game he played in. I think over 100 yards in every game he played in. The guy's just ridiculous. But, I mean, Sherman on Eric Decker that entire game. Eric Decker's invisible in a game that he really needed to show up big.
He puts definition to the term shutdown corner. I mean, in today's
There's
NFL.
only a few.
Yeah, and also you think about in the last few years, the cornerback position, the top players change so quickly too. Sherman just happens to be the big guy. I'd say this year and last year he's probably the best corner in the league. But then right before that, you talk about Darrelle Revis.
Mm-hmm.
Darrelle Revis fell off the map, so it's kind of a short shelf life for these guys.
A lot of people would say the coach kind of doesn't utilize Revis the way he should be utilized, but I agree that in a sense he disappeared for what he was known for in his past seasons. The cream tends to be rising to the top, but as far as Tom Brady concerns, I'm not sure how much more he has left, Alex. I mean, he seems to be able to turn water into wine every single year. Bill Belichick, dots the I's, crosses the T's, fills in all the holes with X, Y, and Z players.
Yeah.
But how much longer does Tom Brady left have to win that fourth career-defining ring where people can confidently say Tom Brady is the best of all time? Because right now that question is definitely in the air. A lot of people say Peyton is the best of all time.
Easily debatable.
A lot of people say Montana is the best of all time.
Of course.
You got to throw in the argument of John Elway, Steve Young, quarterbacks like that. Bradshaw, the only quarterback with 4 rings. I mean, you gotta. I think until Brady gets that 4th ring, he'll never be a no argument best of all time. What do you think about that?
Well, when you talk about how much time does he have left as a quarterback in the league, as an effective player, you have to mention Bill Belichick in that same light, because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, to me, are a package deal. When Brady retires, Belichick's going to leave the team. I don't know if Belichick's going to retire, but he may coach somewhere else. So they're a package deal, so you can't mention one without the other. It's amazing the success Tom Brady's had so far in his career. I mean, the guy, every year you can count on the Patriots making the playoffs. Even when you start the season like this year and you think Rob Gronkowski's injured, Aaron Hernandez is in jail for the immediate future.
Brady's favorite target is in Denver, catching passes from paid.
And still they win the division.
Ridley had by far his most disappointing year, and LeGarry Blount, I mean, the 335-pound running back, from Tampa Bay Buccaneers trash, turned into gold. That's just what the Patriots do.
So the only way that Tom Brady is still going to be effective is if, to me, he's getting to that point in his career where they need to start surrounding him with good players. They've squeaked by the last few years with letting Welker go to free agency. Not necessarily. I mean, they try to focus a little bit on wide receivers in the draft, but Bill Belichick is still, in my opinion, clearly a defensive guy. Now that's where Tom Brady is gonna. If they have any chance of him winning that elusive 4th ring, it has to be through surrounding him with strong players. So I think this year's draft, either through the draft or free agency, they have to make a move and get a weapon like they've mentioned Larry Fitzgerald. I personally think he'd be a great fit in New England. Big receiver. That's what they've been missing. Randy Moss. They don't have that big receiver anymore.
I agree.
So they need to start surrounding him with weapons, because Tom Brady still has the talent, obviously. The guy is, when you talk about elite quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. But yeah, if they're going to go anywhere as far as winning a Super Bowl in the next few years, because you got to figure too, the AFC there's a power shift going on right now. The teams like Miami, even, you kind of see them as an up and coming team.
Absolutely.
In their division.
The Jets split Patriots this year.
And not just in their division. You got Indianapolis, another really good
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, Kansas City.
Can't count out Houston. They have
they had a down year.
Season. A lot of people had them winning the AFC.
So, in my opinion, the competition is getting a little bit stronger in the AFC too. So, if you want any chance of getting back to the Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl, you need to surround him with weapons.
I'm the big AC Andy Chevalier here with Alex Hardesty, talking about Super Bowl a couple Sundays ago. Alex, a lot of talk about the Super Bowl was the stadium. I got to ask you. I mean, they had to know this was coming. They had to know the weather conditions were going to be a factor. They had to have an idea. How in the hell is this game played in East Rutherford, New Jersey? How did they win this bid?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They lucked out with the weather that day because it was very mild. What was it, in the 30s? Very low wind, no snow, no rain, anything like that.
And they very well could have been.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about a winter from hell. We're in New England, not far from New Jersey there. And I'm looking outside our windows right now, and we got about 8 inches of snow. So they lucked out big time, which was a big risk. And had it been snowing, they would have been forced to play through the elements. It worked out this time, but I have to assume that them having the Super Bowl in New Jersey, doing an outdoor Super Bowl, it's been a while since they've done that. They usually shoot for the indoor stadiums or fair weather places like Tampa Bay. It must have been written into the contract when they built that stadium, I have to assume.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so
otherwise I don't know how that could have possibly gone down. I mean, who in the right mind said, yeah, this is a good idea. We're gonna have the Super Bowl in February in one of the stadiums that has specifically the worst weather possible.
Right. Right. So it was a big risk. I think it went smoothly. I'm sure from the league's standpoint, highest rated Super Bowl. I mean, people were ready to watch a snow game if it happened.
They labeled us the blue collar Super Bowl because prices dropped so dramatically. Even flights dropped so dramatically. A lot of the blue collar middle class to lower class people got to go to the Super Bowl because it was a lot more affordable. Next year's Super Bowl being played at the University of Phoenix, the Arizona Cardinals home stadium. Much better environment. Probably going to be nice and sunny that day. Alex, when's the next time we're going to see a Super Bowl outdoors in the Northeast?
Well, if they continue, I would love to see a Super Bowl at Gillette. I don't know about you. I don't know if they could handle it I don't know if it's built to sustain something like that. But I like the thought of an outdoor Super Bowl. You look back about 30 years or so, they used to play, Minnesota used to play outdoors in the cold.
Right.
To me, that's true football, hard-nosed, play through the elements, so you kind of, from my perspective, I like to see that outdoor. I like to see the elements play a factor in the game.
What in your opinion, what would be a worse stadium to play in, the Cleveland Browns Stadium or the Buffalo Bills Stadium? What would be a worse environment to play outdoor Super Bowl?
I would have to say Buffalo. Easily. Buffalo, New York is renowned for having that bad weather, high winds. I remember the field goal posts. In recent history during a Patriots game getting blown to the side because the winds were being so high. I just don't think the media would care too much to be out in that weather, or the players actually. But I think Buffalo would take the cake as being the worst stadium.
How about you being a Vikings fan? What about Lambeau Field? Playing at the Packers place.
Yep, the old division. I think that would be Green Bay is such a historic venue for football. I mean, Vince Lombardi coming from there, all the greats, the Packer greats. I think that would be an interesting place for a Super Bowl. Very, very much cold weather. They would. It'd be a struggle, absolutely. But I think
it would be a struggle.
Yeah, I think Green Bay would.
I don't think we're going to be seeing the Super Bowl played in a cold environment anytime soon. Way too much was brought up. I mean, the Super Bowl could be affected due to weather conditions. No one wants to see that happen. The Super Bowl is going to be played in a nice indoor stadium or one of the nicer outdoor stadiums in the southern part of the U.S. and that's how it's going to be. Speaking of bad stadiums, Alex, something else that everyone's been talking about: the Winter Olympic Games being played in Sochi, Russia. How did this place win this bid? I mean, our question of the week right now is: what is your opinion? The worst, if you could pick anywhere in the world, what would be the worst place to host the Winter Olympic Games? Go on our Facebook page, check that out. Just whatever comment you want to write about either the show or just our question this week. What would be the worst place to host the Winter Olympic Games? I mean, how did Sochi win this bid?
Well, now that it's happening, you got to say, it hasn't been a good start for them in Sochi. They're having huge problems with
Talk about some of these problems.
Oh my God!
We have a list.
Let's start with this, Andy. The living conditions in the hotels.
Talk about the living conditions.
Well, let's just talk about the fact that some people can't even get the room that they're supposed to have booked. The media, obviously a huge media presence. It's the Winter Olympics. And
what is there, a lack of rooms?
Lack of rooms being under construction that aren't ready. That's what they're being told.
Not ready.
Yeah, not ready. Which begs the question: did they not expect all these people to be there? It's the Olympics, right?
Well, I'll give you a hint. If you want like a guest list of who's going to show up at the Winter Olympics, I'll just give you a map.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, all these countries are going. I mean, how can you cautiously use the excuse, we weren't really prepared, you know? Like, how do you say that?
It's got to be one of the bigger debacles as far as stadium goes, and just the whole area being prepared for a major event like the Olympics. It's got to be up there as one of the worst we've seen so far. All sorts of stories coming out of there right now as far as like they're killing stray dogs.
Oh my gosh!
Around the stadium.
That's a good way to get Americans to love it.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's a huge media coverage there. Of course, it's going to be talked about. Big story coming out of there. So that, how do you feel about them killing stray dogs around the stadium?
Oh my gosh!
Just to make it more. I don't know what they're reasoning.
Sounds like Rocky Balboa had better weather conditions and living conditions in Rocky IV facing Ivan Drago.
Yeah, do you think they have Drago out there killing the dogs?
I mean,
that's pretty intimidating.
A lot of people are like, saying how could they not prepare? I mean, this is Russia. This is what Russia does. I mean, they get shot if they smile. This is Russia to a T. I mean, they're cold. I mean, to them, this is just a walk in the park. They don't understand what these Americans are complaining about.
Clearly not prepared.
Like, oh, your water's not clean. Figure it out.
And
don't drink at all.
Yep. And you had mentioned issues with the bathrooms too.
I don't know if you know about this. In America, we tend to have a divider, like a divider, and particularly men's stalls, and obviously women's stalls.
People like privacy.
Yeah, people like a little privacy. We're talking about stalls directly next to each other, no divider. We're not talking about urinals. We're not talking about straight up sit-down stalls. Like, you have I don't know about you, Alex, but I don't know if you have a partner next to you while you're sitting on the porcelain throne. But, I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Another thing I want to talk about as far as the living conditions go.
Yep.
Lack of pillows. Lack of pillows. I mean, we're not. I know we're not staying at Holiday Inn. We're talking about lack of pillows, and we have a quote here.
Yeah.
I believe this is from the Russians' response. Due to an extreme shortage of pillows for athletes who unexpectedly arrived to Olympic Village in the mountains, there will be a transfer of pillows from all apartments to the storehouse on February 2nd, 2014. Please be understanding. We have to help the athletes out of this bind.
So
unexpectedly arrived at Olympic Village.
All right. So how long have they known that they're going to have the Olympics?
Years.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that they, the bids I think are decided, at least 4 years ahead of time, if not more. And they don't have something as simple as pillows. I mean, is this something where? Do you think it's something where the people that are staying in the hotels are being they think they need more than one pillow, or do you think it's something like? Do you think it's a legitimate concern?
I mean, it's coming to the point where people have to put notes on their pillow saying, "Please don't take my pillow."
Wow.
Like that's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it's come to the point where you're gonna have to start taking your pillows off the flight when you get off the plane. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you were to pick one of your worst places, and this is our top 3. We try to do like a top 3 or a top 5 every single week. If you were to pick a top 3 worst place to host the Winter Olympic Games, would be number 3 on your list?
Oh, let's see. Worst places for Winter Olympics. Well, first of all, South America, because guess what?
Yeah,
there's no winter sports there. So we can rule out any warm weather places. I think worst places, well, Sochi has got to be making a name for themselves now as being one of the worst places. I think maybe Greenland. I don't think they. Yeah, Greenland. Nobody knows what's going on there. Iceland.
Well, Iceland's the nice place, and Greenland's the best. So I think either one would be pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, Greenland obviously worse than the others.
Yeah, I think as far as places that we have proven they can handle it, obviously in Canada.
Canada was excellent. Yeah, that was great.
Easy choice.
They kind of made a mockery of themselves. I mean, that's Canadian humor, I guess. But
Yep. So. Now we know that Sochi, Russia, is not a good place.
Yeah. Rivaling North Korea is possibly worst place ever.
Yeah.
The Winter Olympics.
They might have Dennis Rodman helping them out there. Apparently, he's good friends with the dictator over there.
Oh, jeez. How about that? Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't get much worse than Sochi, Russia. We're just calling a spade here. I mean, we're not trying to take anything out of context here. And I mean,
and you know what? Before we paint a terrible picture, too, I mean, obviously we know there's been issues so far with the hotels the pillows, killing stray dogs, which are all big issues. But it remains to be seen whether or not this will be a successful. It just started.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe we're not giving them enough credit yet. We'll see where they go as far as the competition. If it's a good year for Winter Olympics, they anticipate it to be a good year. I'm excited about the hockey.
You're excited about the hockey?
Oh yeah.
I love
and you're in the mecca of hockey over there in Russia right now. So
all right, I'm gonna lay this into you. What's the over under and how many times the 1980 USA Russia Olympics winner is referenced during the hockey?
Well, you got to figure it's going to be way up there. It's
I got an over under of a solid 55
yeah,
times.
I mean they've made movies about it. It's clearly one of the Winter Olympics most historic and well-known events. And I would personally love to see something like that happen again.
Right.
I mean, it's historical. It's a miracle.
I just want to see some good Olympic hockey. I mean, I remember watching Canada USA and just being. I thought that revived the sport that year.
Yeah.
It was going downhill.
Great competition.
That with the Winter Classic, I thought that combined really brought hockey fans back.
Yep.
Hockey, I think, just extremely underrated. I think there's very few things more exciting than playoff hockey. Never mind just regular hockey. And it's great to see the Olympics, have such a even competition level that's great to watch.
And the Winter Olympics are unique with hockey in terms of, you think of like the All-Star game for basketball or for the Pro Bowl for football, where you can see, you can visibly see these athletes taking a break and kind of seeing, they don't want to get hurt. Which is understandable when they're under contract getting paid millions of dollars. The exception, though, is in Olympic hockey. It's in the middle of the season, and yet these players are going all out.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are.
They just play with a little more sense of pride. And I know I'll be watching as much as I can as long as there is curling on. Curling does get the priority for Olympics for me. I don't know if you're a big curling fan.
It's fun to watch. I'll leave it at that.
I think France is going to take it this year. I got Vive la France taking the curling.
Oh yeah.
In the Winter Olympics. Are you a fan of the bobsledding team?
Yes, and
Team Jamaica.
And yeah, speaking of Team Jamaica, I heard that there was an issue, just like in Cool Runnings, famous sports movie, where I believe one of the Jamaican bobsledders was missing on the day of the event.
No.
And it's almost like it couldn't be scripted any better. I mean,
watch Red Stripe.
So that's, I love the bobsledding. I think, that whole Jamaican storyline so far already playing into it, just like in Cool Runnings.
Hashtag missing Jamaican bobsledder.
Yes. So that's the story coming out of Sochi, we've been told. So
folks, I'm the big AC Andy Chevalier here with Alex Hardesty. Let us know not only some of the worst places to have a Super Bowl, how about some of the worst places to host the Winter Olympics? We got a couple here. North Korea being a pretty bad one. Hawaii might not be the best choice.
Well,
at least they have pillows.
They have pillows. People be comfortable, but yes, they'd have a lot of snow machines probably working overtime.
These Winter Olympics have been talked about a lot. In fact, they purposely was coming out after the Super Bowl. A lot of shows are actually, a lot of TV shows and television being shown after being premiered or their next season after the Super Bowl. One of the biggest coming this Sunday, February 9th, The Walking Dead. I know you're a huge fan.
Can't wait. Let's break it down. So, The Walking Dead, I know you're a big fan as well.
I'm a big fan.
Where we left off at the mid-season break.
We're not going to give away any spoilers here for those who need to get caught up.
Yeah,
but
well,
there's a lot of question marks. I mean,
we left off with a lot of question marks. They pretty much can go in a lot of different directions now with the show. They're one of the most exciting shows to come along in a while. And if you're into the whole zombie apocalypse thing, which is really big now in movies and television, Walking Dead, it kind of set the tone for that.
Absolutely. It's just one of those shows that just people just are addicted to. I know I can't wait to do it. Another show that's going to be coming out soon. It's one of those Netflix shows that you can only see on Netflix, can't really see it on the air. House of Cards. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's got Kevin Spacey. Kind of talks about the politics in DC and things like that. I know you said you watched a couple episodes.
Yep.
What was your initial reaction, particularly something I want to get your opinion on, where the main character talks directly into the camera? I want your opinion on that.
Yeah, I like that. You could cheaply relate that to like Real World, where they used to do their confessions and talking to the camera like that. Obviously, House of Cards on a whole different level.
Right.
Kevin Spacey, one of the greatest actors right now. And I enjoy that. It's sort of like an aside for going to people who like theater. It's like an aside where they're speaking into the camera. It's between that person and the viewer. It's everything they're talking about is meant for the viewer. So I like that. I like that style. I like to see kind of different styles incorporated into television shows, not just basic storylines.
I'm telling you what, I think it's a risky style to do. It's hit or miss, and the only reason why it's working is Kevin Spacey. I think he has the voice, the look, the swagger. And ladies, you know what I'm talking about. He just has the style where it works.
And you got to figure too. You talk about risk. We're right now we're spoiled with television. We're in the second golden age of television. You have shows. I think Sopranos sort of sparked that years ago. But we have such good shows like the aforementioned Walking Dead, House of Cards, Mad Men. Just great shows because when you start talking about risk of doing camera styles like that, where they're focusing, talking to the audience. You gotta take risks as a director now with modern television because you gotta separate yourself from other shows, and that's one way that I think they're doing it.
I agree. We're pretty spoiled as far as good television goes. I'm a big fan of HBO's Boardwalk Empire.
Oh yeah, great.
Just absolutely
Second
amazing.
coming of The Sopranos. I don't want the Sopranos to me is one
Sopranos
of the best shows
if it took place in Atlantic City.
Right, but this past season of Boardwalk Empire, I just we can talk as far back as season 1 and season 2 because we just finished up with season 4 with Boardwalk. When Jimmy was killed off at I believe the end of season 1 or season
Correct.
In Boardwalk, he was my favorite character, and it sort of left that it was like a punch in the gut when they killed him off from the show, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch the show again. But then second season comes around and it just sucked me back in. Just when I thought I was out, it sucked me back in.
They just got done with their 4th season, and your favorite character was Jimmy. My favorite character is Chalky White.
Oh.
And the 4th season, not to do a spoiler alert here, but it's a lot of Chalky White. It's primarily Chalky White.
Especially in the last few episodes. And what I was kind of getting at with Jimmy, them killing Jimmy off, not to make any spoils because I'm not going to name names, but they do kill off a major character.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say someone dies.
Someone dies, yeah. People die on the show.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really one of those. Another just fantastic show that I feel gets a lot of recognition, but not nearly enough. I feel like Sons of Anarchy.
Yes.
That's a show where literally any second someone could die, get shot in the head, and it would be smooth. It would make sense. It wouldn't be like, where did that come from? You know, I feel like no matter what they do in that show, it would work and make sense. They just got lightning in a bottle with Sons of Anarchy. Breaking Bad, obviously, just one of the biggest. I mean, AMC just rocks.
So yeah, you talk about like Sons of Anarchy, and you start talking about the networks that they come from. FX puts out Sons of Anarchy.
AMC, Breaking
HBO.
Bad. Yep.
Some of the best networks. They're putting out really quality television. And then you got I believe The Americans is on Fox.
Right, kind of correlate with Sochi, what's going on.
Yeah.
The Americans doesn't really get a lot of justice here. I mean, for those who haven't watched, basically it's about these undercover Russians who live in America, pretend to be American.
KGB.
Yeah, it's similar to stuff like that. I mean, give the show a try. It's a really good show. I wonder if they're going to have any reference to the Sochi Olympics.
Yeah, you wonder. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the show. I don't know, does it take place when the KGB was in years ago? So I don't know if they would make any reference to modern.
Yeah,
but that interesting thought. So it's there's some good TV coming on. I believe that's on Fox. So that's another kind of up and coming. It's good to start seeing some of these other networks coming out with quality television. It raises the bar, is what I'm trying to get at. With networks like FX, AMC, and HBO, they're really raising the bar for modern television. If they put out poor poor shows, it's not going to get the ratings.
And you know what? I think the timing of this television series coming out, like all these good shows, is really perfect because I feel like for a while, TV relied on reality TV. I think it was reality TV or nothing, and really there's only a couple of shows that really do great. And we're talking like Survivor, The Voice, American Idol's really not so much anymore. And there's a couple, America's Got Talent, and The Amazing Race, pretty popular show, but there really isn't that much great reality TV anymore, and luckily these shows have really just kind of taken off.
Yep, and the only people benefiting from it are us, the viewers. So,
that's right.
Yeah, and I guess one more thing I could get into, getting back to Walking Dead and some of these shows, Boardwalk Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of violence in the shows. It took, I believe, until the 3rd season of Walking Dead for them to change the rating from NC, I think PG-13 or whatever the equivalent is on television, NC-17 maybe, to a mature rating. I thought it was long overdue, personally. Especially with it kind of allows more freedom for the show too to get more. Now that they have the mature rating,
yep.
They can do more as far as violence goes. I don't know if that's when you're dealing with the zombie apocalypse, violence kind of goes hand in hand with that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think I know for a fact Walking Dead is pushing the limit as far as they possibly can. I mean, in their after show, Talking Dead, they literally the producers, directors say out loud, we're waiting for us to tell us we can't show this.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about like really curb stomping zombies. We're not making this up. I mean, it's pretty graphic stuff, and they're doing because they can. No one's telling them not to.
At this point, they already have the fan base, so they're not going to lose fans. I think they only have to gain from it. So I think that's kind of, as long as you can handle it personally, and I think people our age, we kind of like to see that the explicit maturity of those shows. It kind of adds to it. So I, for one, kind of support that. So
before we wrap up the show, Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot. You already told me your favorite Boardwalk Empire character. Your favorite Walking Dead character.
Favorite Walking Dead character. I'm going to have to go to the easy one on this. I'm going to say Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
And his character in the show is just badass. And I actually, funny you bring that up too.
Daryl Dixon.
Daryl Dixon. I was able to see Daryl Dixon, or Norman Reedus, as the actor's name is, at URI recently.
Really?
Yeah, I believe it was over the summer. He spoke sort of like a one-on-one with, if you remember Keith Brown, one of the professors there from the film department, one-on-one interview type thing on stage there in Edwards Auditorium. Really, really interesting guy, so I can't help but be a big fan of him.
Well, I'm not going to pick the same person I would if you didn't say. But Daryl,
sorry,
I'm going to go with someone who doesn't normally pick, and that's Maggie. I think Maggie is a great character. Plus, she's hot. So that's what I'm going to go with. Folks, this was The Breakdown. I'm the Big AC Andy Chevalier.
I'm Alex Hardesty.
We're going to do shows every single Friday. Try to put them up the next day if possible, possibly the same night if we can. So like I said, go on our Facebook pages. Look on both Andy Chevalier's page and Alex Hardesty's page. We're going to soon have a Breakdown Facebook page coming up fairly soon.
And tell us what you want us to talk about, too. We want to hear what you have to say.
Right, and talk about kind of, if you could, respond to some of our questions that we asked. Worst place to have a Super Bowl in America, one of the worst places in the world to have the Winter Olympics, and also favorite character in Walking Dead. That was kind of something we kind of talked about a lot at the end, too. So thanks very much for listening. Like I said, we're going to soon have a Facebook page. I'm the Big AC Andy Chevalier. This is Alex Hardesty. We'll see you next time on The Breakdown.